of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the seated symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures. That moves us to item 2, adoption of the agenda. Dr. Gutierrez, do you have any recommendations?
Yes, I would like to ask that we move the second letter F, approval of resolution to apply to the NMF. To the NMFA for local solar access fund grant after the approval of change to graduation date, letter J.
Okay.
Which letter was that?
It's the second F. There's 2 Fs on there.
Oh.
So the second F, if we could move that to after letter J.
So I'll entertain a motion with that change.
I move.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, that moves us to item 3. Public input. Is there anyone that'd like to give public input? Is there anyone online that would like to give public input? Okay. Okay, that moves us to item 4, action items. Item A, approval of the June 15th, 2026 regular board meeting minutes and January 19, 2026 special board meeting minutes. I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the set above.
Okay, any discussion?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mr. Wilgus.
Any discussion? Do you have discussion related to the minutes? No.
Okay, then I have a motion, but I do need a second.
A second.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same sign. Okay, that moves us to item B, discussion and approval of the 26-27 board meeting and committee calendar. Is there any discussion?
Ms. Begay, at the last board meeting, there was some discussion about moving the December meeting. It's currently scheduled for December 21st, which is during the holiday break, and it's really close to Christmas. So I believe the discussion was to move it to the Monday before, which would be December the 14th.
I did see that in the minutes. I just didn't know if there were, because it was tabled from the last meeting. So I didn't know if there was further discussion. Okay, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve with the date of the December meeting being moved, so we're not on asking people to come in during Christmas break. Okay,
To approve the board meeting and committee calendar with the exception of December the 14th instead of the 21st.
okay, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same sign. Okay. That moves us to item C, presentation and approval of the 26-27 elementary pre-K handbooks.
Good evening, Vice President Begay, members of the board, and Superintendent Dr. Gutierrez. Thank you for the opportunity to present the student K-5 handbook tonight, along with the pre-K handbook. I think you all got a copy. So, in looking it over, we condensed the table of contents so that it wasn't so large. I also worked on alphabetizing it better. We also made a change where all of like the calendar the staff resource where you have your emails, extensions, the compact will all be at the end. So those will be in the appendices, the discipline matrix, so that it's easy for the parents to find and have quick access to. Last year, we did not have the new cell phone policy in it. So this year, the one that was approved last year, I added that one. Also, last year, we had the question about retention for proficient students. That was found, and on page 19, it was added that proficient students will be promoted according to the NMSA section 22-2C-6, since that was brought up last year. If you have any questions, I can answer those on the K-5 elementary handbook.
I have a question, but it doesn't relate to the handbook, so I'll get with Dr. Gutierrez.
Okay.
It's about the portion sizes for our kiddos, because I know sometimes they want additional food, and I know there's strict restrictions on they can only have half of a hamburger or half of a sandwich. And so I wanted to see if
So we do, I know at Bayard, we have a share table.
okay.
So that the food that the students do not eat, it goes on the share table, so they have access to that. The only thing is they do not allow us to put the main entree on there.
Okay.
So this year I'm sorry.
Could you repeat that?
So we have a share table, and if the students don't eat their fruit, their string cheese, just the milk, whatever it is, grapes, whatever, they can put that on the share table at breakfast and at lunch. But we were advised that the main entree cannot go on the share table because they do not have enough for everybody to have seconds. So that's what we were informed.
Okay. My concern has to do with the handling of something by one student.
So the things that they do put on the share table would be like in a baggie that have the grapes in the bag,
Okay.
or it's not like they've handled it, touched it,
Yeah.
and then it goes on the share table. So they can't have taken anything out of it or eaten a portion of it. It has to be intact to go on the share table.
Thank you.
This year, we decided that we would take the pre-K handbook out of the K-5 handbook because it doesn't need all of that. So Ms. Montes is going to share with you the pre-K handbook.
Good evening. I have been working with our NM pre-K specialist, Crystal Patton, to update our pre-K handbook to align with our NM pre-K standards. We added a potty learning policy. We added a guidance policy because our guidance policy kind of got blended in with the elementary. So some things were like not specific. So it said like expulsion. Pre-K doesn't have expulsion. I also revised our curriculum to include our new curriculum, our scholastic curriculum, and then to add Heggerty in there. So it's actually a lot more organized. Easier to read.
Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve. Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay. And so that was for pre-K, elementary, and pre-K. Okay. That moves us to item D, our Snell Middle School handbook.
Good morning. Good afternoon, Vice President Begay and members of the board. Are there any questions on Snell Middle School's handbook?
No, actually, I didn't, copies weren't provided, and I went through them, but I can't get through them now because I'm not on the internet for this, and I'm using my computer, not the work one. But I didn't see anything that was of concern.
So the
We
only
would
thing that was
improve-
really, oh, I'm sorry. The only thing that was really changed from last year was I checked the grammar, made some changes. I did add a few areas for the disciplinary policy. So I did add inappropriate use of technology violating security systems. So that was the only thing added, and racial slurs in the second column. Anything that's hate-related offense based on race, culture, or religion or discrimination. So that I felt after I met with my team to update, because we saw a lot of that in terms of discipline last year. So those are really the only changes that I made to my disciplinary matrix. And I did ask Mr. Autodes at the high school to incorporate that as well. I did share my handbook with Mr. Autodes so we could kind of mimic and be consistent throughout secondary.
Okay, any other questions? I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Motion.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed, same sign. Okay, that moves us to item E, presentation and approval of the 26-27 Cobre High School Handbook.
Thank you, Vice President Begay, members of the board. Today I come to you seeking approval for the 2026-2027 student handbook for our Cobre High School. A few key things that I don't like using the word change. I'd like to say the word, adapt, and to really, get a clear understanding of what's going on and how we could pretty much support moving forward. So first and foremost, again, having consistency with the middle school will help out, right? Our students are coming on over from the middle school, and we want to make sure that we remain having that consistency. First and foremost, I established, with help, of course, with our guidance counselor and those here at the central office, creating a clear breakdown of our attendance intervention process, right? So I put something for our parents, our students could really look into our intervention plan when it comes to attendance. So for example, the student attendance improvement plan, right? We're going to start incorporating that. That's having meetings with those students that are chronically absent. We are a closed campus, as we're aware. I revamped our parking. Currently, it was kind of like I want to say a free for all, right? Whatever grade you're in, you could come in and park, and we really needed to establish some structure there, because of course student safety is priority, right? If we have students that are driving from, let's say, home, we need to really make sure that they're licensed to drive, right? And I think that's very important to have, because if not, if something happens, regardless, if we have something in the policy that says we're not liable, we're going to be liable, right? We're responsible to and from school. So having that reinforcement there, and I was briefed that there were some issues with the closed campus, but just remaining consistent and remaining true to our discipline matrix would help curb that behavior, and not only that, but systematically also, which we could get to at another time. Cell phones and personal electronic devices. Clear outline. Last year it was kind of like, if the teacher lets you, that's cool. You could be on the phone. But this year, I felt like we need students that are going to be on task, right? Ready to learn on a daily basis. So really revamping our cell phone and personal electronic device expectation. Personal electronic device, that includes AirPods, Apple Watches, things of that nature, right? So establishing that clear expectation. And then when there is those violations, we have a structure to how we're gonna address them. So first offense, for example, student gets caught with their phone, right? At the end, parent will be contacted, cell phone returned to the student at the end of the day. Second offense, we're looking at parent to come pick up the cell phone. Third violation, a fourth violation, we're really looking at possibly not allowing the student to bring the phone. If not, you get those messages like, hey, well, how am I going to get a hold of my son at the end of the day? Well, in my past experiences, It's simple. They come in, they turn it into the front office, right? And at the end of the day, they come in, they sign it back out. Here you go. There's your electronic device. There's your cell phone device as well. Grades and credits. That is also revamping. So coming into the year, my understanding is we had credit year-long class as one credit, right? Which is kind of difficult. So if a student doesn't do very well in the first semester and they average, let's say, a 0%, but then they come in second semester, I'm on it. I'm doing the best that I can. And they get 100%, they still fail the course with the 50%, right? So that instead of we move to an A and B section of the semester, so they get 0.5 credit for the first semester, 0.5 credit for the second semester. So really establishing and aligning, where we could improve that. That's going to help with credit recovery. Hopefully we don't have to use too much of that credit recovery, and we're really on it, setting that expectation. But if we get there, at least we have a plan for that too. Of course, adding the graduation requirements as well. Having that clear outline for our students to understand this is what I need to graduate. And our plan there at the high school is to have those consistent credit audits, right? To make sure we don't run into the situation where 6 or 7 students are walking at the end of graduation. However, they still have a couple classes they need to finish. So we really need to be proactive with it, and with the help of our team, I think we're going to establish that system there. And then of course, dual credit and CTE fast track. My understanding, they were coming in and students were first year, 9th graders coming in. They're babies coming in from 8th grade, getting ready for 9th grade, and they're expected to pass a college course, which not only if they fail, right, not only are they affecting their graduation requirements, but they're also negatively impacting their time at Western, right, or whatever dual credit system we have. So really just providing that structure, not taking away that opportunity for our students, but just having a clear process laid out in that structure where our students have an expectation to meet prior to them taking those dual credit or CTE courses, just to make sure that they meet those requirements so they're sustainable when they take those courses on their own, right? From that, that's a nutshell on our student and parent handbook. I'm open and I stand for any questions.
Are there any questions?
Yeah. What are you going
Yes,
to
sir.
do about the kids that are creative like I was?
What do you mean creative? Like,
Well, I didn't have driver's license, but I still drove to school, but I parked off property and then walked.
yeah, absolutely. So of course, having that conversation with the family, and of course, once we're made aware, right? If we're not aware, it's kind of difficult. But of course, we want to rely on honesty and integrity, as much as we can, and give our kids that opportunity. But also, to my understanding, we do provide busing for our kids, right?
Right.
So that's an alternative, for them, and maybe they're like uncertain, the families are uncertain, but really having that conversation and really having that conversation where it's dangerous to be driving to school unlicensed, and not only that, but even with the parents. So say if they hit somebody, right, and it's their fault, and somebody ends up seriously injured, that's going to go on insurance, that's going to go against their record. And unfortunately, I haven't had that personal experience. However, I've had a few individuals that I've known go through that experience. But just having that conversation and with the parent as well, right? So getting that parent involved, not just with the student, but with the parent, and say, hey, look, we even offer driver's ed to our students, and you freshmen has of course they get that opportunity to take it, but they also could take it their sophomore year, junior year, and really help them throughout that process. So it might be in like not having the knowledge of okay, what kind of opportunities you have in that process, and just having that being transparent with our stakeholders.
In previous years, they've done the same thing here.
Yeah.
They parked over at the shopping center, on the
They
street.
ran across. Yeah, it's yeah, and we'll take it day at a time, and I know sometimes these adjustments are hard, but I feel like they're necessary just to keep us all safe, keep our kids or babies safe. My goal every day, and I know Mr. Almanzar, he shout out to him. He's probably watching because I told him, but it's my first board, first board meeting. But anyways, he said, you know what? When I receive a student from from home, somebody's baby, I want to return them in the same condition, if not better, educated, fed, right, and feeling good on their way home. So just having that in the forefront of everything that we do.
I had more of a suggestion
Absolutely.
for the top 10%, maybe establishing a date to notify students.
Perfect. Okay.
Because I know there was a little bit of a hiccup this year in letting the kids know, as well as the graduate profile.
Okay.
With that. So those are just a couple suggestions.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And then maybe incorporating something with dual enrollment. We had a presentation at our New Mexico School Board Association meeting, and the person from PED had mentioned that students, it's great that they're taking dual enrollment, but we need to ensure that we're informing them that if they get a failing grade, that in fact goes on their college transcript as well as their high school. And so she said, a lot of districts are incorporating that and letting students know ahead of time the process so it doesn't affect them in the long term.
Absolutely.
So just a couple suggestions.
Absolutely. So one thing we put out on Facebook on the 28th, we're actually having like a meet and greet of myself, the principal, and that's something I will definitely bring up during that conversation. Let them know, like, hey, if you take dual credit, not only did it may impact your credit here, but also in college. Absolutely. And I think if I'm not mistaken, I think there was discussions of the dual credit. I'm not too sure. I'm sorry, not dual credit. The 10%. I'm not too sure if there was a consideration of a policy, adopting a policy on that as well. Maybe we could put possibly a notification. I'm not too sure. Maybe 2 weeks or even of prior to the graduation date. Which I'd probably have to talk about here in a little bit too.
Okay.
Maybe we could, but continuous dialogue. Absolutely.
Great. Any other questions?
Yes. First, I'd like to say I appreciate the cell phone policy, and I'll tell
Absolutely.
my daughter that I voted for it. So she's going to be one of the challenges. The other part has to do with the dual enrollment. It was a practice some time ago, and I think it's been remedied that whenever a student received a withdrew in time to get a W, that was counted as an F. And students were discouraged from withdrawing. And I told my son, but he followed the direction of the counselor and got a W. Didn't get a W, but got an F in a class that he's having trouble with.
Yeah.
So the significance of the W shouldn't be any different here in our transcripts as it would be for Western
Like
transcripts.
Westerns, yes. Okay, and then of course having that transparency with those important dates with Western, right? Hey, this is the last date you could, and actually we communicating with Western, and they're actually going to come in that first week of school, and they're going to meet with our students, and they're going to help enroll students, but also give that clear like date, like, hey, these are the last days you could, without receiving any, a failing grade, from it and everything too. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
The other part is the overwhelming amount of classes in dual enrollment are remote.
Yeah.
That doesn't work very well, especially for preparing kids. Like my son just went through that program and he got his associates, went to UNM, and we have this concern that he may not have been as well prepared, particularly from those classes that were done remotely. They did convince him to go to one in-person class, and it was incredibly different for him. He said he learned so much more by going to class. And what I'd like to know is, do we have transportation available, as we should, for people that are dually enrolled, to make sure that they can make the classes in person?
And then of course that's something that we could definitely have in consideration. Maybe we could have that conversation, because I know there was like, for example, we coordinated with Silver at one point, and it was for the healthcare pathway, and I believe we transported students over to there. And maybe it's something that we look into with the neighboring districts to possibly have like a hub, that we could actually take. I know for example, right, there's been hubs of these colleges that could possibly come in, or maybe they wouldn't be opposed to actually coming in and doing a class for
I think they do
us
that.
as well, right?
think there are
That would
some
that would be a good,
instructors that do
yeah,
that.
absolutely. And I think as I get more familiar with like the systems and the opportunities, definitely exploring that those avenues for our students, because at the end of the day, that's what we're here for, is for our students. And if it's better for them to be served in person learning, so they could be prepared for whatever role they want to take, whether it's in CTE, because we do offer, there is some teachers that can teach dual enrolled classes, and we do have that. We have a few teachers there, and they get that college credit for, so of course, yeah, expanding on that, that would be that we will definitely expand.
And
Definitely expand.
allowing the opportunity for them to participate in study groups would be another thing.
Oh, yeah.
That's invaluable.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, if we have students that are enrolled in Western, they should receive a lot of the same benefits as another Western student, right? Like being able to have tutoring sessions or whatever the case may be, and just having that clear coordination. And Western is very willing to do so. I spoke to the executive director in dual enrollment, and he was like, Mr. Alvarez, just ask what you need, and we'll be there to support. So of course, running things by him to see maybe what they have to offer our students. Absolutely.
And I agree with you, not having freshmen be in this, particularly since we don't have an honors program or
Not yet.
advanced
Not
study.
yet.
If they're-
Yeah, not yet. I think we'll get there. Because I've been before I created this handbook, I was looking at different districts and what they offer, and they clearly outline the sequence from English classes to math classes, and that's what I want to get to. And we'll get there. It just takes a little bit of time. We'll get there, and once we establish that, I think we'll be rolling. Including those honor classes and AP classes, and things that are going to really push the needle to
in
for
math-
excellence.
In math particularly.
Yeah. Absolutely. So I stand for any more questions, and with it, and then of course I will note that, and I'll make those improvements in our handbook, and I'll put it like maybe 2 weeks prior to graduation, or like something that might be. I'll get with the team just to make sure what would be.
Or maybe
Yeah,
just
beneficial.
internally with your staff.
Okay,
So
you
you
got it.
don't have to come
Yeah.
before us again.
Perfect. That'll
Okay.
work. Yeah.
Any other
do that.
questions, comments? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I move we approve the
Okay.
high school handbook.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Thank you. That moves us to the first F, presentation and approval of the 26-27 athletic handbook. And principals, please feel free to go home if you need to with your families. Thank you for coming tonight. I think that was the fastest we've ever gone through handbooks since I've been on the board.
Prepared. They're prepared. We're prepared. So yes, Vice President McGay, members of the board, today I present the athletics and activities handbook, right? Because this includes our activities as well, right? Because of course, at the end of the day, we want to support our students to receive a well-rounded education, and this is the opportunity to do so. I really condensed the first version. It was like 40 some odd pages, and it was kind of a lot, and even reading it to myself, it kind of felt like it was mixed, like of everything. So I just wanted to really break down and really get to the important things that we need to cover. For example, there was a section on there all about coaches. So I did away from that. The coaches separately, we'll eventually get there to have a coach's handbook for them. So their guidelines, the procurement process, or traveling process, whatever they have to follow. So we'll get there. But I significant changes or revisions, I should say, is roles and responsibilities. I clearly stated on there, like, what's the roles of the students, right? Student athletes, student participants. What's the responsibility for the parents, the administrators, the coaches, sponsors, right? Really having that clear responsibility breakdown. So if parents have a question, they know, oh, okay, I could talk to Mr. Alvarez about that. I'm going to talk to the coach about this, and really have that clear message. Of course, I had to update the transfer rules, right? That reflect the recent NMAA guidelines that they came out with. Academic eligibility. This is an update. as well, I really wanted to follow NMAA requirements. So they go by semester. They require semester. And we were doing quarterly, right? And I get it. We wanna expect that excellence, but keep that bar high for our students. However, I feel like if a student is ineligible at the 9 weeks, but he was barely missed or whatever the case, like it's kind of difficult. Like, hey, dude, you're done. You're done for the rest of the year. And I don't think that's fair to the student. I don't think it's fair to the team. But instead of ruling them ineligible, put them on academic probation. So for example, if a student is not ineligible, but didn't make the grades at the 9 weeks, we put them on an academic eligibility plan where it's going to be required for them to attend tutoring in that specific class that they didn't receive credit for. Make sure that they're visiting with that student, and we're not going to allow them to participate until they raise that grade up to our expectation. And I actually did get input from some of our coaches throughout this handbook, but specifically that. And they said, Ms. Alvarez, I think that will work if we have practice after school. Instead of showing up to practice, we understand, but they go into the classroom and they get some support that they need, and that's going to help retain our student participation. Because I think of it, if I'm a student that's struggling inside the class and I fail, man, that's going to tear me down in a deep hole, and I'm not going to be able to participate. My grades are going to reflect it. My home life is going to reflect it. My situation at school, like we want to give a student a reason to continue showing up and giving them that hope, because they deserve that hope. All of our students deserve that opportunity and that hope to continue to excel, right? So the goal is, of course, accountability with support, right? We keep them accountable, but we're going to support them throughout that process. We revamped the discipline matrix as well, because we still want to hold that high standard. But I don't agree with, if a student fights and they get 3 days OSS, they could return after the 3 days back to nothing, back to school, right? And back to straight to the team. Right. So I clearly laid out the discipline matrix where there's calendar days that they have to serve a suspension for, which holds them accountable. Because I feel this way, right? Not only are you representing your family, not only are you representing our school, but you're representing the team. So that you are by like logic, you are held to a different standard, right? So keeping them accountable. Of course, there's those extreme cases where a student is getting, let's say, expelled or long-term suspended, where, pending that long-term suspension, they may be out of the team. But it also gives students an opportunity, right, to really reflect. So if they get a 10-day calendar day suspension from the team, they could still train, they still get to work out, but they can't participate at the games or that activity. So they're still part of the team, but they're not, they can't participate in that main event, that I like to say. So of course it's progressive though as well, ultimately leading them to get kicked off the team, unfortunately, right? Or honestly, all participation in that case. So we have to hold them to that standard, right? And again, I consulted with some of our coaches and some of our staff just to see if that was feasible. But yeah, at the end of the day, participation in these athletics and activities, it's a privilege, and they have to maintain, a certain conduct in order for them to participate. I also put in there the 3-strike rule, right? The two and you're out, and that was something that I felt was needed in the old handbook as well. But yeah, in a nutshell, that's the current athletics and activities handbook. I'm open to suggestions. I'm open to any questions for that.
I think it looks really good. It's condensed, and I really like your graphic for both coaches and students and parents. It clearly states
Absolutely. Thank you.
right up front what to expect.
And we did establish a mission and a vision, and then we cleared out we spelled out tradition, so I want that universally said across our activities, right? Because tradition, I feel like we got to build on the tradition that we have here at Cobre and continue to progress towards it's already continued to progress towards excellence.
I have a few comments. One is, you mentioned the scenario of, a person gets into a fight, they get 3 days suspension, and then that should be no different than the time that he's off practice or off thing. And then you mentioned that they are athletes and they are supposed to be held to a higher standard, and that is kind of a contradiction in that particular case. And as a board member, one of the biggest complaints there is behavior. And particularly if it includes a sports person, if you see somebody that did an infraction, and yet they show up to practice every day still, I'll get a lot of calls for
Yeah,
that.
except for, so if they're suspended outside of school, they can't go to practice. They can't go to practice. Just to clarify that, because they're suspended off of school grounds completely. So they can't even go if they're suspended from the high school, but then the middle school has a game, they can't even go to the middle school, and that's clear dialogue too. If maybe Ms. Begay needs to get a hold of me, I'm sorry if that was.
No, that's fine, and that's a good clarification. But going back to the initial scenario of there's a fight, there's a 3-day, and then the students back on the field doing, in this case, playing because the 3 days is up, so there's no sanction that would keep them from playing. I think that's problematic, and I think that's something we're going to hear. It's your call, but obviously, I think that's problematic, and that especially if the fight was provoked by the student.
The person that
Yes.
the athlete. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
By the athlete.
Okay.
And so
Or activity. Whatever. Okay.
I would hope you would put that ambassadorship as criteria for the behavior to reflect that.
Absolutely.
And, violations of that should be dealt with more than just it would be as students, because they are our ambassadors.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. So I just to clarify, they would say if a student fights, right? And I don't have it in front of me, but if a student gets in a fight, right? And not only do they serve a 3-day OSS, right? According to our policy discipline matrix. So that's what happens within the school. But when it comes to the team, they have to serve a 10-day. I'm thinking I put 10-day. I blanked out, a 10-day suspension from the team, calendar days. So, but of course, having that clear expectation, right? That, yeah, the student can work out, because at the end of the day too, like, say for example, because I think ahead, because I get worried, right? If a student is participating and say it's football, right? 10 days of not conditioning for football, right? And then he's expected to come back and play, that student, he's at risk of getting hurt, but he won't be able to participate in those sanctioned events, right?
It would be an irresponsible action on the coach to bring somebody in that isn't ready to play.
Yeah. That could be a separate conversation.
Yeah.
For me. Yeah, no, absolutely. But at the end of it too, remaining consistent, that's what I want to, of course, establish. If it's a student that, is the MVP of the team, right? Then I hold that person accountable just the way I the freshman that just came in to play and sometimes might be in it for a t-shirt or something, you know what I mean? But hold them both accountable at the same standard and having that same, that same consistency as well. But at the end of the day, I'm open to suggestions, edits, and revisions as we all see fit here.
One thing I didn't see, and I haven't seen in any other one. So
Okay.
no onus on your part, but I would like to see a review is conducted to ensure that this is being administered fairly. There's too many times relatives of so-and-so or
Absolutely.
Teachers, coaches, everything else that they get involved, and there's a disparate amount of sanction, if at all.
Oh, absolutely.
So I'd like to see if you could build in a portion that gives the board a report on the number of sanctions and not including the names, but the number of sanctions and discipline that was administered.
So and I'm glad that you mentioned that, and I actually asked if it was possible, but they mentioned, hey, it would probably be better for the next board meeting. I actually plan on doing either I would do it if you want me here every month. I don't mind giving updates. I want to be transparent with you guys 100%. I want you to know what's going on within our schools, from the good, the bad, the ugly. I want to make sure that you guys are fully aware. I do plan on even if it's quarterly, coming in and giving a board report of what's going on and anything that we're doing at the high school. I asked if I could be on at this meeting. However, of course there's other things going on, but I plan on being as transparent as possible with you guys, and I want to be here to help with that. And then of course, to answer your question with of course, honestly, remaining consistent. We have to have that consistency and having, how can I say it, follow the handbooks, all handbooks with fidelity, make sure that we're following through, and we can't bend rules for so-and-so. And because at the end of the day, I know Dr. Gutierrez will be having a conversation with me and say, hey, Mr. Alvarez, at the end of the day, I want to make sure that we do it right.
And to that point, that discussion can be between the two of you, because the board shouldn't micromanage anything to that degree, but an occasional report would be good. My last concern is, in a couple of meetings ago, we had a discussion about insurance for injuries that occur while at school. And there seemed to be that wasn't the case when those injuries were sustained during sports. And I'd like to see the manual make bring into the school's insurance policy and shed light on whether that should be a charge to our insurance or not. And I think I don't understand how we can exempt an injury, even if they sign something saying that they resume the responsibilities for any injuries that they may sustain. I don't see that as giving us a hands-off type thing. We should be responsible if they're doing something that we're asking them to do, that we've trained them to do. I believe we should be responsible for making that person whole as best we can.
Okay. Yeah. And at the end, oh, I'm sorry. Oh, yeah. No, at the end of the day, my ethics, I'm going to say my ethics and my professional duty is to follow all, board policy, state law, federal law, local law. So of course, at the end of the day, if that is a policy in place and we would need to, I would need to enforce it absolutely 100%, then I would enforce any board policy, absolutely.
If I may, I think we also need to maybe invite our insurance provider, because they have certain regulations and policies that they have to follow as well. So they may be able to shed more light around what is eligible and what is not eligible. So we can invite them to present.
And perhaps an attorney.
And I know just to speak of my previous experiences, I know exactly what you're talking about, because of course, unfortunately, we had incidents that occurred at the school, at athletics, and we technically had to fit, we had to fit the bill, whether it's calling the ambulance, having that transportation, so I see there should be some guidance out there, but I understand where you're coming from.
I don't have a question, but I got kind of a suggestion on, especially with boys. Girls fight in school too.
Absolutely.
But boys, they're trying to prove that they're a man. When a couple boys get in a fight, instead of kicking them out of school for 3 or 4 days, make them stay in like a study hall. And then they won't be in the regular class, but they have to have all their schoolwork done in that study hall.
Yeah, one thing, of course, that could be like ISS and school suspension, things of that nature. Beforehand, of course, I'm hoping, and of course, just getting my feet wet, right, and yes, getting that expectation. I'd really want to mediate the problem before it becomes a problem, before it becomes physical. So first things first, like if we hear about it, like instead of they're just being boys or they're just being girls, really being able to get in the forefront of that and say, hey, let's bring you in, let's have mediation, let's talk it over, and then if we find out, because I've had this experience, if we have two individuals, but one's being the aggressor, right? In that case, hey, you know what, like we gotta keep you here. The other one, not to say like you're free, because it's, but in the sense, we have to really look at personnel as well, but really having that conversation, being proactive, as proactive as we can. If we could solve, and I'll be honest with you, mediation does wonders. You know what I mean? Like bringing those two kids in here and clearing up. I promise you, I had a situation. I'm going to tell you a quick story, because I know we're crunched for time, but there was two little girls. They were going to fight. They were going to throw down. One little girl said to another little girl, hey, I like her hair. It's nice. Well, there was another little girl right next to them, went and told that girl and said, hey, that little girl said you just had lice. Straight up. And I brought them both. She's like, no, I didn't say that she has lice. I said that her hair is nice. And I confirmed, because I brought students, I investigated thoroughly. And then finally, so we definitely, avoided, a potential fight. So just trying to get ahead of it as much as we can. But I'm not opposed to, of course, I have to follow, policy and everything. And at the end of the day, when there's fights, having a thorough investigation, because if a student is defending themselves, like they're sitting there and a kid jumps on them and attacks them, right? Like, and he's pushing them, right? At the end of the day, like, is that kid, do I have to suspend him also, for those 3 days? But then we find out later that he was actually causing the issue and talking, stuff behind his back. You know what I mean? Like, you got to really look at things thorough.
My son got in a fight when he was in high school.
Yeah.
3 boys jumped him.
Oh.
He whipped all 3. He was the only one that got suspended.
Mhm.
So I suspended the school for 3 days after his.
Mr. Alvarez, how would you feel about on your matrix reducing the calendar days, but they're completely sat out of practice and games?
I'm not opposed
Like
to it.
as a compromise in the middle.
Yeah, you know what? I'm really not opposed to that. And I actually think that's a great idea. I think we could, so in the sense, right, like we're kind of, we're still holding them accountable, but we're looking at them still holding them accountable for those calendar days. But then instead of them not practicing, they're not practicing. That's
Right.
the change.
So
right?
like for the first offense, instead of sitting out 10 calendar days, it'd be 5 out of
5
practice
calendar
and
days.
games. So
Okay.
you would just reduce it in half.
Yeah,
That's just
we
a
could-
suggestion.
that's something that I think is feasible, and that they're completely away from team activities. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. But I think we could, of course, make those revisions and go back to some of our coaches, just out of respect, and let them know, hey, this is, what do you guys think about this?
And then
absolutely.
the other thing that Mr. Carrillo has brought up lots of times is the injury report, having
Yes.
that available too for each season.
Yeah, absolutely. We need to do that, because we're supposed to, every injury, we're supposed to be doing that. And I might butcher the name, a Cochrane report, and that, I think that's how you say it, right? So it's a report that either the nurse or myself or somebody designated to do it, we have to turn those in for insurance purposes and making sure we're held accountable, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Any other discussion? Okay. Move to approve, or do we want to table, or do we want to,
Move to approve.
okay? Is there a second?
Do we? I'm sorry, I won't second it. I'll second it, but then we can go into discussion.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
Yes, are we then saying that the changes will be made that we just brought up now, or? Actually, I want to retract my motion. Or
Your second? Okay.
because I think I'd like to see it before we approve it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Is there a second for the motion to approve? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to table.
I move
Okay, is there a second?
A second.
Okay, all those in favor of tabling, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay,
Absolutely. All right.
thank you, Mr.
Thank you
I'll
Alvarez.
see
very
you
much
guys.
for your-
I'll for sure come back for. All right, thank you.
Okay, that moves us to item G, approval of amendment number 5 to forensic auditing procedures contract with Armijo Accounting Group LLC, also known as JAG.
So this is, just a year extension to what we already have, rather than having multiple requests over the year, we're gonna go ahead and extend it for a full year. We received the fiscal year 23 audit, and you see that in executive session. We're getting closer and closer to completing the audit, and we're really going to work to get it all completed, as it says there, no later than June 30th of 2027. So rather than bringing you multiple extensions, we're gonna extend it for 1 year, so that we're able to complete phase 2 of the special audit and the subsequent fiscal years that are still needing to be completed.
Any questions or discussion?
Yes, regarding the length of time up to the next year, is that like, how do you base the amount of money that you put for that contract? Is it going to be whether or not it's needed, or if it's anticipated is going to continue, then it would be 100% used, but say in March, that, it was done. Is that going to be written into the contract that up to June 30th of 2027? Or is that going to be something that can be done with the provision of, unless it's finished early, then it'll be this many dollars for each contract date?
Well, right now it says no later than
Yeah,
June 30th, and so how they figured the money portion of it, I don't know if is Audrey having your currently online? She would be able to answer that.
It says on here, though, all other articles of this contract remain the same. So it doesn't look like there's an increase to the contract. That's the way I'm interpreting it.
Yeah, we're not modifying
All it looks like is the date, and everything else stays the same.
and that's a question we may be able to ask her in executive session, but she's not currently online to answer that.
so the last I remember was us approving a contract was for a specific date, and it was for an amount that was agreed upon. But here we don't have that, and to assume that it can go all the way to the end of the next school year without impacting the amount of money that we've allocated for, I think it was the additional 6 weeks or maybe 2 months, I think isn't rational.
Well, we can have those questions answered by Ms.
Okay.
Jaramillo in executive session. So if you wish to table this until we ask those questions, we can do that.
Or we can call her right now and you can ask her your question.
Sure.
Okay. Do you mind if we call her?
We can. If you
Okay.
Hello?
Hi, Audrey. It's Vice President Begay from Cobre Schools. We're in our board meeting right now, and we have amendment number 5 that we're on the topic of that on our agenda. And Mr. Guadiana had a question, if you could answer it. Dr. Gutierrez was unable to answer his question, so he's here and he has a question for you.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Audrey. The question I have is that there is a clear documentation on the term of the contract, which would be to the end of the next school year. But there isn't anything in terms of the time that exceeds your current contract to now in terms of dollars. is there an hourly rate that you'll, or a daily rate that you'll add on to that? Or is it gonna stay at the rate that it is right now?
It's gonna stay at the rate that it is right now. I think it's 125 an hour.
Oh, okay, an hour. Okay, so
I
it's
think
it's
that's
an
what it
hourly
is,
rate.
But like I said, we haven't increased the actual fee. We only just increased for time because right now, Vertex has to work on the capital assets first.
So if we were to approve this, say the extension of time based on the daily rate of, or hourly rate of, what was that?
125.
I think it's 125 if I remember right.
Okay,
It's a blended rate between, partner and staff. It's just like a blended rate per hour. But right now we didn't ask for an increase of money right now. We just asked for an increase of time.
okay. So this can go without adding any reference to additional pay, just the extension of time.
Yeah, I can go like that, and then let's see what happens with Vertex and what they come up with. If we need to, we can increase it after Vertex is done and we find out how much extra work it's gonna be.
Okay, and so we can maybe add the term with no anticipated extra cost unless otherwise determined.
No, it says all other, all other articles of the contract remain the same. So everything else that was put in place will remain the same. The only thing changing is the date of June 30th, allowing them more time.
What she mentioned of the change was,
And-
if it is that the current contractor that's doing the work for us in terms of, managing the finances, if they find more work.
So at that time, Audrey, will you come to us with another amendment with the amount that you're proposing?
Yes,
Okay,
if we need to.
okay.
That's fine.
And it's a ways off. I know you guys are considering budget and everything, so I estimate that it would take them still 4 months or so, 3-4 months at least, if there weren't any other problems, right? To work on. And after they're done, then we can get back to the special. But for now, the most critical thing was the extension of the contract time.
Okay, thank you so much for clarifying that for us.
Sure.
Okay,
And are you guys gonna want me on the executive?
yes,
Session?
I believe Dr. Gutierrez wants you, and so we can give you a call during executive session if that's okay.
Perfect. All right. Thank you
Okay,
guys.
thank you. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve amendment number 5 to forensic auditing procedures contract with JAG. Is there a second?
A second.
Okay, any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed, same sign. Okay, that moves us to item H, approval of joint resolution supporting a state board of education.
So this resolution is being shared by multiple school districts. Cloudcroft took the lead. And so what they're asking school districts across the state is to join them in approving this resolution so that it could go forward to the Public Education Department to establish a state board of education. We talked about this a little bit while we were up in Albuquerque attending NEMCEL. And the main reason that they're wanting to establish a set board of education is because there has been quite a bit of turnover for secretaries of education at the PED. And if I remember correctly, they've had 6 formal secretaries of education, but multiple interims under the current governor. And so without having a state board of education, there's that turnover. And every time there's a new Secretary of Education, they have, their priorities, and so they change. And having this consistency will allow us to be able to be focused on, one or two priorities for a consistent period of time. So, like I said, the superintendent and Clawcroft and their board initiated this, and they're just asking for districts to consider also passing a resolution, because there would be, of course, more impact with having more districts join them out of the 89 that we have across the state.
So how many have signed on?
She did not give us a number, because there's still several school districts that are bringing this before their board. But I know that the people that were in the room with us had said that they signed on. So let me see if I can.
And is there any editing to this resolution, or it stands as is? Because it says for the members that they want to get from each region, they don't have to have any qualifications.
So I don't know that we can put in qualifications to run for that office. Are there qualifications to run for school board?
No, and there's
So-
almost no qualifications on any elected. If it's an appointed board, appointed function, like a subcommittee to watch something, you can probably do qualifications on that as you appoint them. But for elections, no.
And she hasn't shared the number of school boards that have signed on.
Does this counteract what the legislature is trying to do as well? I know they're trying to go to the voters with this issue. They got bipartisan support to go to the voters to vote on a state board of education.
I don't think it counteracts it. If anything, it supports it, because it'll show that school districts want this as well. So it's a way for school districts to have a voice as well. Of course, the superintendents and the board members that are residents and registered voters can vote for this as just community members, but this would be a support towards that effort.
And I know the other proposal from the legislature had more members from the governor's cabinet. This one only has one person from the state office. Any other questions or discussion?
There was a movement earlier than this to come up with a state board, and it was up to 15 members, of which the governor got to appoint 7, I believe. I like this bill a lot better. I like the intent of this bill. The one thing that I'm worried about is it doesn't show the support that the state board of education would get. Like we have PED for the secretary. Would that continue under the state, a state board of education?
Yes,
The PED will continue then.
yes.
Okay.
This is not a way to bypass PED. This is a way to be more collaborative with PED.
Actually be to oversee PED.
I don't think it says oversee. Does that say that in there?
I kind of think it would be an oversight committee.
Oh, yeah, because it's an amendment to the Constitution.
Yep. But in short, I would make a motion of, once it's called,
I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we adopt this resolution to support the creation of a state school board.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, aye. Motion still passes. That takes us to item I, approval of LGRF resolution and agreement.
So we were awarded a grant. And this resolution is the beginning of the process to be able to access the funds. It's, I believe Ms. Begay was president of the board, if I'm not mistaken, when the process was initiated, but we can't access these funds for the road that is over by the high school until you pass the resolution, and then that sets the rest of the process in motion. I talked to the lady at this organization, and I did not realize how complicated it was to get it all done. But once Gil explained it to me, that this is the first step, then this will go to her and she can begin the process of working with the state to get us the money. So that's essentially what this is, just a form to acknowledge that we've received the grant, that you agree with the grant, and that we can move forward with accessing the funds.
This is our annual DOT funding match. They do a part and then the district does the other part. We used it before for the project at Central Elementary. So this year, I think it's for the parking lot improvements in the school district parking lots and access roads.
I didn't get that in my packet. I looked for that resolution and couldn't recognize what it was just by the way it's written.
Um,
On the email, it says LGRF resolution and it's a PDF.
yeah, well, the way it shows up on my screen, it's right after the Senate Joint Resolution. It is a PDF attached to the packet.
Okay. But and so it's, what is it? What are we going to be doing underneath the road, the highway?
No, it says it's for fiscal year 27 for Cobre High Tom Powers softball field parking lot improvement and pavement rehabilitation improvements of school district parking lots and access roads. So the Department of Transportation, their share is 75%, so they're going to pay $121,950, and then the school district's portion of 25% is $40,650.
Okay.
I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I move to approve the motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay. That moves us to item J, approval of change to graduation date.
Vice President Begay, members of the board, I come to you again with a situation regarding our current graduation date. It's currently scheduled for May 21st. However, it's conflicting with the silver graduation, which is, I believe, is on the same date. So, of course, moving forward, I'd like to establish, a lot more, coordination and collaboration with Silver City, because they have, of course, both their high schools, Cliff and Silver High. And not only that, we have to take into consideration Western as well in their graduation, right? But to really look at other major events, including prom, and just having that dialogue. And funny story, I ran into the principal at Subway today. As a matter of fact, I went and bought me a Subway, and they're like, "Hey," I was like, "Hey, we gotta continue having." It was a quick conversation. Funny story: the assistant principal was actually one of my teachers growing up back in Lawrenceburg, so that was kind of funny. But yeah, so of course, it's a decision of the board. We could potentially move it back, to another week, which of course would help with attendance with our seniors. And not only that, it could potentially help those that are just at the cusp of graduating, and maybe give them that extra week if we look at it that way as well. Of course, there is a little things to consider too. We would run into the same situation that we did this year with everything happening all at once, and we're kind of in a crunch. but I feel I feel confident in our team that we could get that done. And of course, if I'm not too sure, I think it's set for silver. However, I could have I'm not too sure if they would be opposed to their their change, because theirs is out on Friday. I mean, we could potentially look at the Thursday or even that Saturday, like right before the 21st as well. So the 20th. Right, as well.
So is that the date you're proposing, May 20th?
I'm open for discussion. However, I think we were looking at the following week of May. What was it that we discussed? May. I'd have to look at 20.
Is it May 27th?
May 27th, I believe.
Is it the Thursday or the Friday?
Yeah, that Thursday.
So right before the Memorial Day weekend?
Yes.
Okay.
Similar to what we had this year, right? That was, yeah. So on that 27th.
I can say that this year when Cobre went on a Thursday and Silver went on a Friday, seemed to work very well. But if the other one works just as well, that's good.
Okay. Yeah. And then moving forward, of course, I'll make sure that I reach out. We'll reach out. I know Dr. Gutierrez has a good relationship with the superintendent over there in Silver as well, and having that dialogue and getting that input in there. Absolutely, we'll be mindful and plan it more accordingly next year.
So I'd like to make a motion then, if you're okay with the 27th.
Absolutely.
To change graduation so it doesn't conflict with our neighboring school district for Thursday, May 27th, 2027. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, thank you, Mr.
Absolutely.
Alvarez.
Thank you.
Okay, item K. Oh, I'm sorry. We moved the first approval of resolution to apply to the NMFA for Local Solar Access Fund Grant. Okay, whenever you're ready.
Hey, thank you for inviting us to speak on this. My name is Tracy Robinson, and I'm representing Sunshower Capital, the developer for Clear Energy Solar, New Mexico. And we have a power purchase agreement with the Cobre School District. And as part of that agreement, it's our duty to go see if we can get more grants to bring the cost even lower. Just to give you a little bit of background, this power purchase agreement just purely is to buy electricity and to also have energy storage using batteries, which is unique. Many of the systems don't have that, but you have to do the batteries in order to get the full benefits from the solar. So, as I said, as part of that, we're tasked with find more grants, find more money, but that goes to making it a better system. So we worked with, I believe, both of the ones we worked with recently was with the interim superintendent, Mr. Piper, and we applied for one, with energy resilience, did not get that one, but then we applied for another one. It's called the Local Solar Access Fund, and it appears that this project is fitting exactly where they want it to fit. They want a solar, they want batteries, and they also want, I guess you could call it matching funds. They want someone else to be spending as much money on the project as they are. So it worked really well that we were able to take the solar power purchase agreement that we have now and then make a proposal that added a great deal more batteries and then lowered the price. Use part of that grant to lower the price that's going to go to the Cobre School District. So we've actually applied already. At the time, the superintendent did a very detailed letter of approval. We thought that was all that was needed just to apply, but they have the New Mexico Finance Authority has been great. They've actually called us, talked to us. They like this application, but they said, tick the box. We need to have the board approve the application. This is just approving the application. This is not approving acceptance of the grant or anything else, but we have to have this in order to get awarded the grant. Now, I'm not saying it's 100% that we're going to get awarded the grant, but they literally reached out and said, can you get this done? And they've held out because we told them like, this has to go before the board. And Dr. Terry's came on and said, I'd like you to come speak on this. They are going to make their decisions in August. So ideally, you know, if we can get that approval, then we'll find out in August if they're going to add that grant to it. And then you can make a decision on whether you want to accept it or not.
So Dr. Gutierrez, this is more of a you question. If this is approved, how soon will this go on our ICIP and our district's facilities master plan? Because it says it's one of the requirements.
If it's applicable. Because one of the things that most of the school districts we've worked at do not want to own anything. And so the power purchase agreement, we have to own everything. So I don't know, I cannot speak for sure how that would be treated, but it may not even go on the plan because you're not actually going to own it. You're just going to purchase the electricity.
Okay.
And given the current priorities for our ICIPs, we would not add this on there because we have a roof that needs to be replaced and 2 HVAC systems that are barely hanging on. And so those are the top priorities right now.
The way the grant is written, there are no costs coming from the school.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yes, so that would mean we would be paying just for the electricity.
Yes.
And is there a ratio of what we'll be paying for this electricity as to what we would otherwise be charged if we didn't have the system?
To be honest, I'm more the lawyer administrative person. So we have one of our other partner, Reynold Christian, who.
Hello.
It's a little loud, be careful. It's a net savings. Because of the way the utilities have been ratcheting up their costs. I mean, I think it's been 19% in the last year. So there's just even by being able to lock it in, because I believe right now we have it 11.5 cents and it has only a 1%, 1.25% escalator. The utilities are already putting much more than that. And because of the batteries, and energy management that you can do, you can try to stay in the sweet spot of rates. So it gives you a lot of power over your rates, over what you spend.
Would any of that power be sold to other like residences?
If there's excess power, you may have what's called a net metering. And I believe the way the contract reads, actually, I think you guys get the benefit of that. You're not going to have a lot of excess power because you're going to feed the batteries. When you don't need it, you're going to feed batteries. And then when you're going to discharge the batteries. So ideally, you should try to be keeping it pretty much in balance.
Where's it going to be located there?
Okay, so here's what's really nice about it is no roofs. So Cobre High School, Hurley Elementary, and Snell Middle School, and it's all going to be carports. And they're going to be all steel carports because we don't want anybody hitting them with cars, so not small posts. It's going to be up to you how you want to allocate those, whether you want students, faculty, it could be awards. Some people kind of make it an honor who gets to park in that area.
And vehicle charging, would that be included if
We haven't, but it's something we could look at. We probably need to go out and get another grant on it, but you could do that. It's an upgrade.
And is this building, this facility included in that plan?
Not on our contract. Those are the 3 we have. We kind of came, I don't know if there's any other, if you have other power purchase agreements that cover the administration building. I don't know. It's difficult to put, there is an issue about size and you've got to get some. And what we do is we put these together and then we try to bundle them with other districts. And what part of our mission is to get out in the underserved areas, because the biggest part that we do is we bring the financing, the construction expertise, all of that. And it's been an interesting last 2 years. So this project has taken a while, but then we also had a lot of flux going on last year with what the tax credits were going to be. And that's an important, very, very important driver of how we monetize these. There are some things, we're right at the point of funding. We've already got the financing. We're just doing the funding. There are some things we're going to need from, I don't know who would sign, whether it be Dr. Gutierrez or someone on the board, but as part of the contract, there are certain things that you do need from the contract holder. You know, it's pretty standard, but it's like saying, okay, I agree you can finance it. I agree you're not in default. And then those are the things like that. But they were always really, they were spelled out in the power purchase agreements, and it's kind of just a housekeeping at this point. But
How did you come about doing the high school, Hervey Elementary, and now middle school when we have Central and
we were brought in because we do battery. There's another company that got the contract to do several, they do, and I don't know which ones they have. I don't know the names of which ones they have, but they didn't want to do any batteries. And so we were brought in to say, will you do these that are batteries? Now, you know, we've done them without batteries too. So, you know, we'd be happy to look at other things, but that was why, is because the others had already been evaluated and there are contracts. My understanding, there are contracts on some of those other schools. But these were the three that made sense with batteries.
And if I could just go back to your question about who would sign. For my comfort, I would feel more comfortable if it was myself and the school board president, just so that there's checks and balances, so that there's two signatures.
That makes a lot of sense.
Have you installed systems similar, including the batteries, anywhere close to here?
Close to here, well, there was one where our contractors have. Just so you know, we have, even though I'm from out of state, we've actually been working on these type projects since 2018. Because what we came in and we worked with the Cooperative Educational Services and our
CES.
yes,
Yes,
yes.
ma'am.
And it's funny because our initials are close, so we have to be careful. But we were awarded the contract in 2019 to do power purchase agreements, so that we had negotiated everything with them. And so we're kind of vetted at that level. You know, frankly, pandemic happened, and you know, we had a whole pipeline of things that we were going to do, and it didn't pan out. But then the Inflation Reduction Act came in 22, and I guess around 24 we came back to this. But I mean, there've been other projects like a prison, and we've done, myself and Reno, we've done other projects on school. We just finished one in South Carolina. So we kind of know that of how to, you know, that you have to deal with local councils, local boards, make sure everybody's on board, happy, and you've got to also deal with their priorities of when we can install it and all these things. So sometimes, you know, we do get, you know, like our contract says when we're supposed to be there so that we don't disrupt regular school process. It would have been great if we could have done this all through the summer, but unfortunately the utility fast track for interconnections is not a fast track. So it was like over 9 months for one of the interconnections, just constantly being kicked back. And then supposedly fast track is supposed to be 8 weeks, but that's not the way it worked.
That's two questions. One is, will the existing utilities still be on site?
Yes, yes.
So if one goes down, the other one, we can run the other. And is this going to run with enough capacity to not use the other utility? I like the idea of having it still here.
I don't know if it's going to go, it's not going to go 100%, right, Rennie?
It's not gonna offset 100%. It's really sized so that it offsets the maximum amount to save enough demand, right? It's called demand saving. You know, in your utility bill, I'm gonna get a little bit technical and I apologize. But in the utility bill, you have something called a demand charge. You probably see it in your home fee, and that basically says that, you know, what is the highest amount of energy I'm gonna use this month? And whatever that is, they're gonna charge you for that every single month. So what we do is we size it so we shave that demand down. So your bill will naturally, you know, be less because you're not paying a high demand charge. That's kind of the benefit of the solar and the storage. If you just have solar alone, you can't do that. If you have solar and storage, you can. This is why the benefit of achieving this grant, I mean, I really pray that we get this grant for us, is that it'll bring your cost down from, I think, 11.5 cents a watt, which is below the utility today, down to about 8 to 8.5 cents a watt. And that's going to be a tremendous savings, something about between $40,000 and $60,000 a year.
And you will have some, you will have some battery offset, but it's just, we're not saying that you're going, let's say the power goes out and you're going to be able to run, everybody come to school and for days.
That's the misconception. That's how it works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're still connected, so.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, then I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I move that we approve the agreement for the solar park,
Is there a second?
the resolution, sir.
I'll second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. Okay, still passes. Thank you. Okay, that,
I apologize for bringing the weather from the Gulf.
it's okay, we
No,
need
no,
it.
Stay a little longer.
Okay, that moves us to item K, discussion and approval of a memorandum of understanding with New Mexico Mesa Incorporated.
Me, too many PDFs open. Here we go. So this is an MOU with New Mexico Mesa about transportation and what we need to, the requirements that we need to meet in order for them to transport students. And how we will be billed by New Mexico Mesa when we do transport students. So it's a pretty straightforward MOU. We just need to, if you want to skim it. I don't know that we have a representative from New Mexico Mesa, do we, Charlene?
So is the stipend paid by New Mexico Mesa or is it paid by the district? For the advisor stipend?
That's paid by the district.
Okay.
So the stipend, if there's more than 40 kids, then there is a second Mesa advisor. Is that gonna be paid 2,500?
Each advisor would need to receive a stipend. I don't know that we have. We do have two. Mesa is a really good program for students to participate in. I've had experience with them before and it's always been positive.
Is this the same MESA program that we've been using in their science program?
Yes.
So I haven't seen an agreement like this before. But I like the MESA program. I certainly like the MESA program.
And it may be that they've now just implemented a policy and they want to have agreements. I personally like to have things in writing and have agreements because it holds accountability on both ends.
Okay.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve. Is there a second?
I second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, that moves us to item L, third reading and approval of new policy J-0850 and J1 exchange student graduation eligibility. I'm not sure if President Carrillo got any comment. He didn't share that with me. I don't know if he shared that with you.
He did not. I did meet with the lady that coordinates foreign exchange students for our area. She's very well organized, and we will have a student from Italy this year. There is an understanding that students need to meet the graduation requirements set forth by the PED. So they do have to take New Mexico history. That is a requirement for graduation. We talked about evaluation of foreign transcripts and ensuring that we have those. Of course, not every country is going to call algebra, but they might have similar courses. So we had a very productive meeting, and I think we're now at the point where it's understood what needs to be done in order for students to be able to receive a diploma, because they do have to meet the graduation requirements set forth by the PED.
We had a student that came in last year and didn't meet the requirements, particularly because the state of New Mexico training wasn't provided where she was. But what I thought we were amiss in is we didn't go over this at the very beginning.
Correct.
Saying absent this, we can give you this training in this manner to meet the requirement.
Correct.
Is that now gonna be the practice?
Yes, that's one of the things that she and I discussed, that we need to be clear with the host family and the family that's sending their student over from whichever country they're coming from, so that they know what the expectation is. The other piece that I learned from her that maybe the prior administration did not know is that the families that sign up for this experience, if they want a high school diploma versus a certificate of attendance or certificate of participation, whatever it may be, they pay an additional fee. And so if they're paying an additional fee to obtain an American high school diploma, then we need to ensure that on our end, we are honoring that commitment, because it's a contract that they sign. And so the student from last year, her family did not pay that fee, but the student from Italy, their family has paid the fee, and they are expecting an American high school diploma. So we need to ensure that he is on track to receive that high school diploma by the end of the year.
Or that we have the facilities that get him there.
And who would be in charge of that? Overseeing? Oh, okay.
Mr. Alvarez, with the support and help of myself and Ms. Chavira.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Yes.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll set that.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, this moves us to item M, discussion and approval of resolution and general agreement with the Southwest New Mexico Council of Governments. Any questions?
This is just for their routine, it's not having to do with being our fiscal agent or anything.
No,
like that,
sir.
correct?
No, this
Okay.
is just the
I was
routine
gonna say for
renewal.
$400, that's pretty cheap.
I know. That the fiscal agent agreement came earlier today, so it might be at a future board meeting, but this is just the usual renewal.
And will you be the person as a voting member, Dr. Guiterres?
Yes,
Okay.
I will be. And I could just say, in the 5 weeks that I've known Ms. Lucero, she is an invaluable asset. She's phenomenal and has been a lot of help.
Any other questions? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I move to approve.
Do we have a second?
Yeah.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, that moves us to item N, approval of professional contract services with Communication Express, ACES.
So on this one, you've actually already approved the contract. We had, because of all the different timing with our budget, it took longer to get this finalized, but you've already approved it. It's already gone through the finance committee. So really, what we should have, because of the amounts, we thought, oh, it needs to go to the board for approval, and then realize you've already approved it. So this is more of an informational document. There really isn't anything to approve, because like I said, you approved it with a budget, you approved it, or the finance committee has already reviewed these. This is just a continuation of our services for that we have through ACES for special education. But if you have any questions, Ms. Luckhurst is online, and she can answer any questions you might have.
I don't remember this going through finance. Can you tell me what finance meeting it was last at? I know we did within the budget itself, but these like professional service contracts, I don't recall. Okay, thank you, Ms. Fletcher. Okay,
That was approved by the finance committee?
No, it was approved by the board.
Okay.
so what do we do since it's already been approved and it's on here again for approval? Yeah, because it's under an action item. It's not a discussion item.
That's why we went back and forth around, because of the amounts. I mean, we have the RFP, we have an agreement with ACES. They're waiting for this, for me to sign this letter so that they can let their, if you will, their employees, their therapists know that they will continue to be employed to provide services to the Cobre Consolidated School District. So I know I can't make a motion, but I can recommend that you agree that that I can go ahead and sign this, and ACES can notify their employees that they do in fact have a position to serve Cobre Consolidated.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the professional services contract with Communication Express?
I would make a motion that we reaffirm the contract.
Okay, is there a second for reaffirming the contract?
Yes.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, that moves us to item O, discussion and approval agreement with Calian.
Madam Vice President, members of the board, Superintendent Gutierrez, I come here tonight because we are in a kind of pickle. This agreement with Calian has not gone before the Finance Committee, but we are under a time crunch. As of July 1st, Verkada, who is our security provider, has increased the price on everything by about 30%. This is pre-price increase pricing in front of you. They have agreed to extend that pricing out to the end of the month before they have to rewrite everything and increase everything. As it stands, just for Bayard Elementary, Central Elementary, and Snell Middle School, total cost $428,868 to finish access control in those buildings and to increase the number of security cameras to fill blind spots. So that's where we stand. And I would like to go ahead and have you approve this mainly because even with your approval, this still has to get approved by the state because 300,000 of it's being paid for out of capital outlay money. So it still has to go before the state and have them approve it before anything can be ordered. And that's still going to take another week or more, depending on how backed up the state is.
This is security for the whole school system.
Well, this agreement or this here in front of you is just for Bayard, Central, and Snell.
Oh.
Hurley and the high school will be part of a separate contract coming through probably in August, September, mainly because they're getting a much smaller system. I think Hurley's getting 3 additional cameras. The high school's getting 4 additional cameras. And so that's going to be a separate issue. This was the big one. And I wanted to go ahead and try to get it. And then July 1st hit and they said, oh, by the way, $30,000 or 30% increase, which is a significant increase when you're talking about $428,000. So that's the reason I respectfully request that y'all go ahead and approve this, even though it hasn't gone before the Finance Committee.
Is there any questions or discussion?
So this it doesn't cover San Lorenzo?
San Lorenzo, when I went to San Lorenzo and spoke with their principal, Ms. Beeble said, we're good on cameras. There are a couple of doors we still need access control for. Again, that's a very small purchase, so it'll be part of that same project that will be coming through for Hurley's, the high school, and San Lorenzo all as one project there.
So those will be 30% higher,
Yeah, but
but they're
because-
smaller
Because
projects.
they're much smaller projects, I didn't feel bad about delaying that one.
Any other questions or discussion?
So how is it determined that this is the company that's going to be doing this? Did it go through an RFP?
No, sir. Callian has done all of our camera and security installation since I've been in the district. In fact, y'all were using Callian before I even got here. I did get a competing quote from APIC, a company out of Albuquerque. Their quote was about $20,000 more. So because they have done all of our other installations across the board, I'd like to stick with the same company because they already know our district. There's no questions, no surprises that's going to hit when they come to do it. They already know where all the wiring is, all the cable runs go, everything like that.
I'm worried about not complying with state requirements in terms of the amount of this not going through an RFP.
And I see that Callian is a CES vendor. So they quoted this under a CES contract. So that's a question I would have to defer to the people at Vertex. Is this something that would need to go out for an RFP, or if we can just use?
It's my understanding that if they're a CES vendor, we don't need to get 2 other quotes. If they're already vetted by CES, they've already gone through the process of determining that they're a vetted vendor. We do know that they're not always the cheapest vendor, but they've been vetted by CES for us already.
And if there's more than one type of vendor in CES that does this?
That's a good question. Kelly, do you know?
Well, and I think we did go out for RFP in the beginning. I think I just came on the board when that process
See,
happened.
that all happened before I
So-
arrived. So I was left with what was happening, which was Callian doing the installations at Bayard and Snell. And then when the other campuses came up through the COPS grant we received 2 years ago, 3 years ago, something like that. Callion did the other campuses based off that grant, and there was no RFP process that I remember.
I'd be okay making a motion to approve this based on, with a caveat that it meets all requirements for state procurement.
Okay,
We can communicate with Vertex and CES to verify that.
Is there a second?
Yes.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign.
thank you.
Thank you. And then back here, we have new business under item 5A, first reading of policy advisories, 275 GCUA teacher residency program. And it looks like this was due to House Bill 30. And then policy 276, JICJ, use of cell phones and electronic devices in school. PED guidance on anti-distraction policy in school. And the legislature adopted SB 11. Then we have policy 277, JLCEC, cardiac emergency response plan. That was due to House Bill 256. And then we have policy 278, JLF, reporting child abuse, child protection.
I don't know if you want to go in order, but I just want to point out that the 276 JICJ does have two different options. Option number 2 seems to be more restrictive. I was trying to read them and I couldn't find too much difference other than one. Number 2 is more restrictive.
So if we don't, how would we go about determining which option? And if we do determine an option, does that then need to go out again for a reading?
Well, both of the options are already written up and it looks like they have the exact same number. I don't think so.
I remember that was last year.
But it's the communication with the public in terms of giving them what it is the policy is going to say.
Yeah, and it's already, they're both options are there fully laid out. The legal references, the cross references are the same as just the option number 2 seems to be more restricted than option number 1.
And to the point that just brought up, if one person is okay with one versus the other, says, okay, how is that then determined to, and how do we determine as to whether there's no objection to that?
You would need to get community input from more than just one person. Obviously, we can put them on, well, these are board packets, so you can go on the website and they can give input as to.
They have the opportunity to make comment, and I think comment goes to the board president. But I think we should have a public and probably conversation with your administrators on how they want to handle this too, your school buildings, as well as parents. I know they're going to want to have access to their kids or how that's going to be handled.
Yeah, and Mr. Alvarez, since you're still here, you can skim it and see how it fits to what you've put in the handbook. Because if option 1 or 2 align with what's in the handbook, excuse me, then we already have alignment with the high school and the middle school handbooks. Do we have a form on our website that allows people to do input, or do they just have to take it upon themselves to email or call? Okay. So maybe in the future, it might be good for us to have a Google form where they're reading it and right then and there, they can say, yes, I like it, or no, I don't like it, and these are the reasons why. We can work on creating something.
I think for this specific policy, we should have like a town hall format.
We could do that.
Or alternatively, if there's consensus amongst the administration that the stricter one is one that we want to follow, we can write it as it's going to be adopted with a stricter one and inform them that there is another option. But your approval of this, if it is outside of what the stricter one is, please let us know.
And just so what I'm looking at here, it just triggered something. It says wireless communication devices. So we're talking beyond cell phones. Because I know personally, my sister did not allow my nieces to have phones, but they had Apple Watches. And with limited functionality, because she was pretty strict about when they could have phones. But they could call her on an Apple Watch. They could text her on an Apple Watch.
Yeah.
So my personal smartwatch mimics my phone. So we're looking at cell phones. We're looking at any smartwatch. Some people get iPads with wireless. So it's broader than cell phones because it does say wireless communication devices. And now they're making little necklaces that the tech is always going to outpace us always. And I'm sad that Caitlin left because she might know more.
They're going to make they're making glasses already that do that.
I own them.
Yes,
I have a pair of Metas and I'm not wearing them right now, but I can say, hey, Meta, call, Michael, and they call my husband. I own a pair. They're fabulous. By the way. I love my Metas.
That's going to be interesting to enforce.
Yeah, and the thing about Metas, so my previous employer was saying you cannot have Metas because you can't take video. And so because of privacy and FERPA and stuff, but my Metas are prescription. So they're my prescription glasses, so you cannot prohibit me from wearing my prescription glasses.
You can prohibit it from videotaping though.
Yeah, and the Metas have a little camera that blinks when you're recording, but I had to tell them, you can't tell me I can't have my Metas because they're prescription.
I would disagree with that, but in that position.
We can disagree, but I was not going to give up my Metas. And I don't have them with me right now. These are readers from Walmart.
So I guess we'll wait to hear from you and your staff, Dr. Guterres, and then people can also give public comment.
We can coordinate that, Cesar, with Margaret, and because I don't think, and I could be wrong, I don't think we'll have very many elementary school students that have phones, but we might. So maybe we just coordinate with all the principals and have a town hall.
I bet you will.
Yeah.
I also agree. As an elementary school teacher, they're everywhere.
Really?
Yes, ma'am.
I guess my family's stricter. We're like, no, not until you're in high school.
My daughter goes to school in Apple Watch. And it's connected to her phone, but she, it's more like, I want to make sure you get on the bus and go. You know what I mean? Then.
Now they don't.
However, she did at one point with the third grader. He did take that and pick up order from school. I was like, hey, you can't do it on your phone.
Well, just so you know, Skechers is making tennis shoes with embedded air tags, so you can take the Apple Watch away and get her some Skechers.
Okay.
Watches can work on their own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That moves us to item B, first reading of policy draft, activity funds.
We have our representative from Vertex. Do you have that policy or? No. There you go. Charlene is always at the ready. So Vertex has been assisting us with writing a policy for activity funds. Kelly could probably give you a lot more information about our current status of activity funds, but we definitely need internal controls. We definitely need to consolidate some bank accounts. Do you want to talk about why we should have a policy, Kelly?
Good evening. I'm Kelly Jones with Vertex. We had Rebecca and I and Dr. Gutierrez has been talking about the student activity accounts. There needed to be a little bit more structure and regulations on them, and then also with the consolidation of the bank accounts as well. Is that what you're referring to as well? There are a number of bank accounts that is currently in process. Those can be condensed, and it makes it actually a better process when you're reconciling the bank accounts, because you are limited to one or two or three, generally like your payroll, possibly student activities, whichever ones that you decide. But once we can narrow those down, the actual accounting will be done within our software program. So what we can do as far as reconciliations for the month, those are streamlined much more easily, because you will have the smaller number of bank accounts, but you still maintain the accounting records within the software system of the school district. I believe, I'm not sure off the top of my head, but there are 9, I think there's like 9 different types of accounts, I believe.
Yeah, we definitely have more types of accounts that we need. And I asked for, because Charlene told me that I had a superintendent line item, and I reached out to Vertex and I said, hey, do I really have a superintendent line item? And they said, yes, you do. And she sent me the spreadsheet. So I have $2,000 for the year. Was excited about that. And as I was looking at some of the items on that spreadsheet, some of them look to be in the negative, but I could be reading it wrong. And then some of them we no longer use. So this will allow us to put in more of those systems of control and have more oversight over how the money is being spent, ensuring that deposits are being made on time, who has access to them. There is a number here, and it's $60,000. If anybody wants to make a purchase above $60,000, they have to come before you. I don't think any of our accounts have that much money in them, and I can't foresee any activity that would need to make a purchase that big.
This includes like graduation funds, like when they do, like, what is it, the 10th graders to the senior. You're gonna include all these funds together? Every school?
Yes, to my understanding, we can consolidate those as far as the bank statements, but again, we'll maintain the within the accounting software within the school district, which is the Visions Tyler Technologies. That is where we will actually can run the reports that how much is allocated to the graduation fund, how much is allocated. So instead of having a bank statement or account for each one, you're basically having one bank account to reconcile, but you're still maintaining that there are separation of, of the accounts for that fact. Thank you. You're welcome.
So how will an activity have the capacity to overspend? knowing that the account has money to cover that, would they have the opportunity to overspend?
Well, when you mean overspend, would, if they try to purchase something and the funds are not in the budget? Is that
Yes.
what you're meaning?
Yes.
Okay. Well, there's internal controls that will oversee that. So for example, if you're putting in a PO and there's not enough funds to cover that, then that will, in essence, be, reviewed and sent back. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, so, excuse me, I don't know why I'm so dry all of a sudden. Currently, the full balance is $552,883, but we're not going to tell everybody that that's how much is in there. So for me, my superintendent account has $2,578. That's what I will see. I'm not gonna see the 552,000 to say, oh, you're overdrawn, but now you're cheerleading, so you're overdrawn, we're now gonna take from football. No.
Okay, and the finance committee will see how each one is doing within their own accounts, or
Yes, we
whatever
can
line
provide.
item on the. Okay, and then reports can be made to the board on the
Yes, sir.
compliance.
Yes, sir.
But then to my knowledge, that there were like graduation accounts from, and then once they're graduated and gone, then some of them have had names on them. So that is actually just, the money is just being sitting there because, it's been named, something that's no longer, of course they've graduated, so it's no longer in existence. So that's just an example of some of the things that it will clean up.
In the event, we have policies that say about how much a student can get when they're traveling, correct? Will the amount of money that's available to that activity allow them to use money that would exceed that for students?
So we don't have policies and procedures in place for that. That is something that we can put as part of the policy. It could become a procedure of the district gives you $70 a day, but if the activity fund can cover more, then, we can make those determinations. But right now, we don't have anything in writing that dictates that. I think it's been at the will of whoever approves. And I don't want to operate in that manner, as I've
That's
told you.
exactly.
I would like to have it in writing that it says you are allowed to supplement to X value. So it's not at the will of me today, or if I'm out of district, Suzanne, because she would be the next person in command, or I don't want it to be at the will of anybody. I want it in writing.
It's a very manipulative perception that because it's not prohibited, it's allowed.
Correct.
Although when it says we'll have this not to exceed so much per day, doesn't mean that it's allowed to pay more to me. But if we have to go now, since there's a practice that has been able to circumvent that, we need to make it stronger.
Right. And Kelly and I had that discussion earlier around the use of our cards has facilitated at the credit cards. But you don't necessarily need to eat at Texas Roadhouse when you can maybe take the kids down to Peter Piper Pizza. The cost difference is very different. And most teenagers I know would probably prefer the pizza over Texas Roadhouse.
Or
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
That moves us to item number 6, Finance Committee Report. I got an email saying that we were not going to be meeting. Vertex had to finish up end of year, and so we weren't able to have a finance meeting. Number 7, our
question. How does that work when we're required to have one at least once a month when we're working on annual state audits? And are we still working on annual state audits, and when's the anticipated release of any such audit?
So yes, we are still working on the audits, and Audrey can tell us the anticipated release of those audits when we go into executive session. We did look this up. The Finance Committee doesn't have to meet every month. It's the audit committee that has to meet every month.
Okay.
Okay, that moves us to item 7, our audit committee report.
We did have a meeting and we went into executive session. How far can we say anything and not be?
Yeah, so we were given the audit report for fiscal year 23. The committee was given an opportunity to review and give input. I think that's about what we can say, and that's why we're gonna go into executive session tonight, so that you can receive that report and ask questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, that moves us to item 8, board members report. Mr. Wilgus, would you like to go first? Okay, Mr. Guadiana.
I think there's a lot of anticipation for the Summerfest, and so that I hope there's going to be a good turnout for that. Some of the students, actually, there's a collection of students that went to the orientation at UNM this weekend, for which that was pretty interesting. But it really brought into point the preparedness that they have when they go into a university like that, having taken the dual enrollment classes. And that's a concern that the students have, the parents have, and hopefully we will be able to strengthen that capacity to succeed in a university.
Okay, anything else?
No.
Okay, I attended our New Mexico School Board Association training up in Taos. It was very nice. The school board members from Hondo kind of took me under their wing, and so I got to network and get to know those ladies from the Hondo Valley. We started on Thursday. Dr. Steinhaus with CES did a presentation, and then Socorro School Board President and the superintendent did a presentation. They're a part of a study that CES asked them to be on, and they really transformed their Board of Education. Their focus is on student first governance. And so they did some research to see about how many of their meetings are spent on students. And it came back from their research that none of their previous meetings had been spent on student focused. And so they've made an effort to dedicate 50% of their meeting to students, data, student first. And so it's part of a collection. I guess CES is doing a 6-year study with select school districts across the state. So I thought that was really interesting. And then on Friday, we had opening comments. They invited both governor candidates to speak about their education platforms. So the Democratic and Republican candidates gave their platform. We also had a great presentation on graduation requirements for current cohorts and future cohorts. It was interesting to see the versatility that students will have and districts will have in the cohort, not the current cohorts, but future ones, and student choice, which I really enjoyed. And someone from our community gave that presentation, Judy Cruz, and so she did a phenomenal job on that presentation. Sorry, I'm looking at my notes. We also got a presentation on strategic planning, but it was more geared toward Southwest Council of Governments and kind of their function in the state. A lot of the other school districts didn't know that they could utilize their region Council of Governments. And then in the afternoon, there was a presentation by the state treasurer and the deputy state treasurer, and they talked about financial literacy. And a lot of school districts have implemented that in their curriculum. They've dedicated, they're going to do 1 credit or half a credit for financial literacy. And they talked about the outcomes and the research that they've gathered from these districts on financial literacy. Also, Think New Mexico has sent information to about financial literacy, and I think they want to do a presentation in school districts. And the state treasurer and her deputy also said if school districts wanted a presentation, we could just reach out to them and they'd be more than willing to come and do that for the district. Attended an interesting session on Friday afternoon with prayers in school from our legal firm, and the Federal Department of Education has issued a few things on prayer in school, which I thought was interesting. So our attorneys were saying at that time that we're going to have to issue something to PED in November 1st. PED has not yet created that form, but they will let school districts know when that process has happened and things have to come before the Board of Education. I also got to talk with a board member from Silver. We talked about the Cobre Silver game coming to an end, and we thought maybe we could do something with alumni or something so the tradition doesn't die. And so that was just a topic of conversation. And in the morning, I attended a session on the Open Meetings Act from Zamora and Ortiz Law Firm. But from the session itself, from the training that I attended, I wanted us to look at our strategic plan. I know a lot of districts we did do that, and we invested a lot of money, and getting back to looking at our strategic plan, refreshing it, and then getting aligned to our goals again. I also have some handouts. If anyone would like copies, I can make some copies from those presenters that provided us with physical copies. And Mr. Guillen said he would also be posting the PowerPoint presentations on the New Mexico School Board Association page so you could view them. And they also talked to us about a new reporting system. So instead of when you attend a session before, you had to print your name and then sign your name, what district you were with, and what office you held. Now they've changed it to a QR code system. So you scan a QR code and then you get the code at the end of the session, and you have to put your name, your district, and then it shows up on the New Mexico PED website, and so it lists our district, and then you scroll down and it shows you when you attended your sessions and how many hours you have. And they said that will eventually count towards the district for New Mexico Vistas. So if anyone wants information on that, I'm happy to provide that. But like I said, it was a great few days meeting other people and collaborating. Mrs. Harden, do you have anything to report?
Not at this time.
Okay. That moves us to number 9, our superintendent report.
So I just added the Silver and Cobre football game. I'm glad that you got an opportunity to speak to a board member. We're not coming to an end. We're coming to a pause. Mr. Hawkins and I had discussions about it, and you saw that the joint statement that went out. We're looking forward to rebuilding the football program at Cobre High so that we can go back to this game. We understand that it's a longstanding tradition in the community, and it should not end. We just need to rebuild so that our football players that are playing both sides of the ball, we don't want them to be susceptible to injury or any other things, but we will be competing against Silver in all the other sports. I have a really good relationship with Mr. Hawkins, and every now and then he'll try to tease me about this rivalry, and I'm like, no, watch out, because I'm competitive and we can definitely bring it, right, Mr. Alvarez? So there's that. I want you to know that I've begun the process of going forward with rebuilding Cobre High School and Snell Middle School. I have the binder that Mr. Piper left behind, and while I was up in Albuquerque at NEMCEL, started having conversations with different people who will be facilitating that process. So we're gonna go before PFSA, I believe is the acronym, and already thinking about how do we move forward with building these two buildings. I am cautioning both principals not to make too many improvements on the buildings because of our ranking. Right now, Cobre High School is number 17. Not that I want students to be in buildings that are not adequate, but it's a balancing act. I was at Snell earlier and I was told by our maintenance workers that I'm the first and only superintendent ever to go look at their HVAC system. And it's dying slowly, a slow death. And so I said, okay, well, we need to fix it. Students cannot be in heat and they cannot be in freezing. So we need to fix it. But keeping in mind that that might change the ranking for Snell. So like I said, it's a balancing act. I also had the opportunity to collaborate with the village of Santa Clara. They are very interested and engaged with improving the grounds at Central Elementary. At some point before I came along, there was a discussion about the village improving that back part of the property. However, they cannot request the money because we own the land, not them. And so the discussion is that they will support Ms. Ogas in pursuing funding and creating a space for the community to come out and enjoy. Ms. Ogas said right now, people do come out to what is supposed to be a track and it isn't really a track. It's just a little gravel pathway. People go out there and walk the dogs and whatnot. But what the village is really interested in is seeing that property improved and then leasing from us so that they can have events and whatnot. And as soon as they said lease, I thought, oh, that's money. So of course, we definitely want that. Ms. Ogas and I will be attending their first city council meeting in August. They have one this coming Thursday. However, that's my birthday. And I said, I'm not going to a city council meeting on my birthday. So we're not going to go until August. We are going to need to make a decision about establishing a committee to make a decision about renaming our Javi Morales Stadium. People are still reaching out. They still want to see action around that. So we need to establish a committee. And what Mr. Piper had discussed with me is that the committee members need to be residents of the community. And a lot of the people that want to serve in the community are not. So at some point we'll need to have that discussion about moving that forward because it's not something that is going to be dropped. There is going to be a welcome reception for myself and the new president of Western. That's happening on the 29th. Let me bring it up. That's happening on the 29th. Oh, why am I in February 2027? From 4:30 to 6:30 at the Grant County Veterans Conference Center. So I know that I am supposed to have a little speech and the president is supposed to have a little speech, but it's a welcome reception if any of you wish to stop by.
What time and what?
4:30 to 6:30 at the Grant County Veterans Conference Center.
Okay.
And that is all I have to report.
Dr. Guterres, for our next meeting, do you think you could provide an update on our housing project in Santa Clara?
Yes, because the village also wants an update. And I know that we're getting closer to delivery of the mobile homes, but yes, I'll provide that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And then item B is fundraisers.
Yes. So is that me? Sorry. We currently have 2 fundraisers happening. Both of them are for the Cobre Cheer. There's going to be one fundraiser for summer camp fees, shoes, and the spirit pack. Their goal is to raise $5,000 for that. And they have donation forms for family and friends to fill out and potentially donate. And then the other thing that they have is $2,000 for 2 mini cheer camps. And it just says that they're going to have mini camps for several days, 2 times a year to perform. So they're hoping to raise a total of $7,000.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
That moves us to item 10.
One question.
Yes.
The issue in the middle school regarding the AC,
Yes, sir.
is that related to the geothermal system that they have?
That is exactly what it is. I'm just calling it HVAC because I don't know anything about construction. I
Because
just know that things were huge and
It's
they're dying.
It's been going on forever, and it's like, we haven't spent the time to identify how it works and which valves affect what. And it's a really good system for saving money if we can fix it rather than go around it.
Yes, so we're going to rebuild one of them because the rebuilding one of the, so there were 3 pillars and I don't know the terms because I'm not construction, but one of them is completely gone and rebuilding it is 50% the cost of purchasing a new one. And so what Felipe and Jaime were asking me for was to invest the money to have a company come out and inspect it and really give us a good idea of what we need to do to it. They talked about the water coming from outside and it takes the ambient temperature of the earth, and it was very complex. So what I said to them was, there's a priority that was put into the ICIPs that while it would be great, I don't think it's high priority as replacing the roof at San Lo and now replacing those. So I'm going to remove that request that Mr. Piper had put in there and replace it with the roof at San Lo and the geothermal system at Snell. I'm going to be requesting $125,000. That's what they, in their estimate, would get us the report from the company and allow us to make some replacements. So that's the action that I'm going to be taking forward to make sure, because I don't want the kids to come in August and it's 95 degrees outside and we have no cooling, or the temperature drops in October and there's no heat. That, to me, that's a student safety issue that needs to be addressed sooner rather than later.
Okay, that moves us to item 10. Executive session notice is hereby given so that the Cobre Board of Education will meet in executive session for the following purposes as permitted under the New Mexico Opens Meeting Act. Item A, pursuant to section 10-15-1H of the New Mexico Opens Meeting Act, section 12-6-5 of the New Mexico Audit Act, and 2.2.215A3 of the MAC for the superintendent and auditing firm to update the board regarding the status of a special audit phase 2. Item B, so that the superintendent can update and discuss limited personnel matters as permitted under section 10-15-1H2 of the New Mexico Opens Meeting Act, specifically the hiring, promotion, demotion, dismissal, assignment, or resignation of, or the investigation of former employees of the superintendent. And item C, so that the superintendent can update the board on threatened or pending litigation pursuant section 10-15-1H7 of the New Mexico Opens Meeting Act, specifically DPH 262702 and item 2, claim number 25H01M636148. I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session.
I'll move to go into executive session.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I'll go ahead and do a roll call vote. Mrs. Harden?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Mr. Guadiana?
Yes.
Mr. Wilgus?
Yes.
Okay, we are now in executive session at 7:25 PM. To go? Okay, thank you. Okay, item 11, reconvene an open session at the conclusion of the executive session for statement affirming that no action was taken in executive session and that discussions were limited to the items listed in the agenda for executive session. I'll entertain a motion to come back into open session.
I move,
Do I have a second? Okay, we'll go ahead and do a roll call. Mrs. Harden?
yes.
Myself, yes. Mr. Guadiana?
Yes.
Mr. Wilgus? Okay, we are now back in open session at 8:28 PM. That moves us to item 12, adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, we are adjourned at 8:28.